Welcome to Thrive at Any Size, a podcast for women ready to reconnect with their bodies and build sustainable wellness without perfectionism. I'm Leanna, a registered nurse and online health coach. Together, we'll explore intuitive living, evidence-informed wellness, and the habits that support long-term health. I'm so glad you're here. Hello, and welcome to the Thrive at Any Size podcast. I am so excited to be doing this, and I figured what better way to start but to give you a taste of who I am. First off, I am Leanna. I am a mom, a wife, a registered nurse, and a health coach. And I am just so excited to be here with you. But lately, I've been thinking a lot about those moments we don't see coming, the ones that don't announce themselves, but end up changing everything. And I want to start this season, this whole new chapter, by taking you back to one of mine. Not the polished version, not the coach voice version, but the real one, the one that cracked something open in me and made me realize that I really couldn't keep doing wellness the way I had been taught or the way I had been praised for. And when I take you back, it was a morning that looked like any other. I was standing in my kitchen, holding my mug of coffee that I just kept reheating and trying to get my daughter out the door, trying to keep my son from climbing into the dishwasher, and trying to remember if I had eaten anything besides crumbs off my kids' plates. And my body felt loud, not dramatic, not catastrophic, but just like loud in a way where you know that something's off, but you've been ignoring it for so long that you almost forget how to listen. And I remember leaning back against the counter, feeling this wave of exhaustion that just didn't match the day that I was having. And I heard myself think, I just can't keep doing this. And it wasn't about it's not motherhood, it wasn't work, it wasn't life that I couldn't keep doing. I couldn't keep doing wellness the way I had been doing it. I couldn't keep teaching women to override themselves in the name of discipline. I couldn't keep pretending that macros and perfect routines were the answer when my own body was begging me to slow down, soften, and pay the fuck attention. That moment, that, quiet moment standing in my kitchen was the beginning of everything that I'm doing now. And it was the moment that I realized that wellness had to feel like coming home, not like performing. And it had to make room for real life, for kids and for careers and hormones and grief and joy and seasons where you're thriving and then seasons where you're just trying to hold on and remember to drink water. And it had to be flexible, it had to be compassionate, it had to be human. And that's what this podcast is about. It's going to be, I hope, a place where we learn how to listen again, a place where we can rebuild trust with our bodies, and a place where we can talk about nourishment and movement and hormones and rhythms, and the messy, the beautiful reality of being a woman in a body that is constantly freaking changing, and a place where you get to be a person and not a project. And so today I want to tell you the whole story, how I went from a nurse educator who believed in, protocols and precision into this health coach that I am today who believes in agency and body literacy and rhythms that bend with your life. And how it's really the second postpartum era that I'm in that cracked this open in me, and how slowing down is saving me each and every day, and how I rebuilt my relationship, with nourishment and movement from the inside out. And, all of that shapes the way that I now support women in my one-to-one coaching program, Thrive at Any Size. And I guess my hope is that as you listen, you can hear and identify with pieces of your own story. Not because, your path is going to look exactly like mine, but because every woman that I've ever worked with has had their own version of the kitchen moment, right? That moment where something inside is whispering, there has to be another way, and something has to change, something has to give. And there is, so I guess let's get started, and before we go any further, I'm going to take you through the seasons that kind of have shaped me, not really as like a resume or anything, but just as like a woman who is learning her body over and over again. And so let's go back to 2011. That's where I'm going to say we're going to start at. And if you met me in 2011, you'd meet a completely different version of me. I mean, the single version, the kid free version, working as a nurse, living for those brunches with my girls and nights out, clubbing and going to the bars and, just kind of just being responsible for only me. And I knew a little bit about nutrition from nursing school, but I wasn't really living in any of it. Right? I wasn't living any of those nutrition principles that I learned. But, even then, my body was loud. I had acne, inflammation, bloating in my stomach, exhaust. I was tired a lot of the times, stubborn weight that I could not get off. But I really back then did not know how to listen to all of those signs, all of those things that my body was yelling at me. And I really just thought something was wrong with me, why can't I lose weight? Why can't I feel better? That was 2011. Now I want to fast forward to 2015, and this is when my daughter was born. She's like 10 years old now. I can't believe it. But that was when my daughter was born, and everything really shifted for me. I mean, I came home as a single mom with a body that I just didn't recognize and a story that I did not know how to change or rewrite. I was working full time. I was also working on getting my master's in nursing education, and I really felt very stretched thin. And like so many women, I just kind of put myself last. I put myself on the back burner for years as I was raising my daughter and just kind of entered into a survival mode, right? I felt like there wasn't room for anything else. And on top of that, all of the messaging that I was getting at the time was just that you're a new mom, you're never going to lose the baby weight. It's always going to be like that. You're always expected to be tired because you're a new mom. And while, yes, being tired as a new mom is a bit of an expectation, it continuing for years and years and years, and the level of exhaustion that I felt likely wasn't normal at the time. Now that I'm looking back at it, it was a sign that my body was trying to tell me to prioritize myself and my health, and kind of put myself first before things got worse. But, back then, new mom, I did not listen. I was not in tune with listening to my body and seeing those things as red flags. I really just saw them as normal, right? So let's fast forward another 5 years to 2020. It's when I became a nurse educator. I got my master's. And so I was teaching a lot of health and prevention to patients and nursing staff while honestly quietly struggling with my own health and wellness. But that season also really showed me something important, that I'm really good at breaking down complex health concepts in a way that people can actually understand them. And I didn't know it yet, but that skill is really valuable to me now and has become a backbone of my coaching program. And now let's go ahead 2 years to 2022. And this year is when I married my best friend. And it was a great wedding. I had such a great time. And it should have been the happiest time. But honestly, when I got my photos back, my wedding photos back, I didn't recognize the woman in them. And I picked myself apart. And I was exhausted and depressed and disconnected from myself in that year. And so I decided to hire a health coach myself. And that was a turning point. That was the moment where I stopped trying to kind of push through how I was feeling and started kind of learning to prioritize and take care of myself again. And then by September of 2022, the same year, I was down 25 pounds. My energy was back. I was off my depression medication. I was feeling strong again. I was tracking macros, lifting weights, running, with my daughter. And I realized something huge, that our daily habits are preventative medicine. And that's when I knew that I wanted to help women the way that I had been helped. And so I got certified in nutrition and fitness, online nutrition and fitness, my certification. I started coaching. And I watched my very first client, who happened to have diabetes, lose 15 pounds and get clear to stop taking her insulin. It was such an achievement. I was so happy for her. And it really lit something in me that I couldn't ignore. And then 2023 came around and humbled me. I decided to stop birth control because it was affecting my hormones. I hit a plateau in my weight loss, and I ran into some hormonal issues from pushing myself too hard for too long. My 36-year-old body at this point needed something needed a change. I need something different. So I tried to shift to maintenance, learned how to control and support my cortisol levels, and brought everything that I was learning straight to my clients. And then, surprise, surprise, or maybe not too much of a surprise, being that I came off birth control, but I found myself pregnant again. And then in 2024, at 37, I had or was going through what they call a geriatric pregnancy. I really cannot believe they still call it that. But my pregnancy was really healthy, but my birth was traumatic. I had something called placenta accreta. I had a hemorrhage, 5 units of blood, a hematoma, postpartum eclampsia, gallstones, you name it, I had it postpartum. You can go to my stories on Instagram if you want to hear more about it. I have a little highlight telling you all about my birth story. But yeah, it was one of the hardest seasons of my life, and postpartum in my late 30s felt nothing like postpartum in my 20s. And so by the fall of that year, we're in September now, decided to transition into school nursing from my really high stressful job that I had before that. And it really was the best thing for me. I found a rhythm that finally felt a little bit sustainable. I also took this time to rebuild my coaching program from the ground up. And that's where I kind of started the seeds of Thrive at Any Size. And that's when it was born. And I really want, and it is, Thrive at Any Size is really a program that is rooted in agency and body literacy and rhythms that blend with your real life. And so now, 2025 to 2026, here I am, 2 kids and a 38-year-old body now that needs different things than it used to, right? And I'm learning to listen in a deeper way. And even earlier in the year, ignoring knee pain led me to a full-blown knee injury called patellofemoral syndrome and months of physical therapy. And that really also helped me to teach me to stop treating my body like a project and stop pushing myself so hard, and start treating it like a partner, start listening to those signs, because I had suffered through that knee pain for months and months before seeking help, thinking that I was just deconditioned from postpartum and needed to push through. Totally wrong. So now I'm prioritizing sleep, stress reduction, movement that I enjoy, and intuitive eating, because I really just don't have the bandwidth for macros right now. And many of my clients don't either. So my focus now is building a body that feels amazing and energized and supported, and a body that can truly thrive at any size. And so this podcast is going to be about everything I've learned as a nurse, as a mom, as a coach, and a woman who has lived through so many seasons. And I wanted to be able to help teach you guys how to understand your body, how to nourish it, and how to build flexible rhythms that really support your real life. Not living in perfection, not living in performance, and just a body that feels good to live in, because we can be healthy and thriving no matter the size of our body. And wellness, is not one thing, right? It's a confluence of things. And it has to be flexible because our lives and our bodies, especially as women, are ever, ever changing. And so that is what I plan to bring to you guys with this podcast. Thank you so much for listening to my story. And I'm so glad you're here. I will drop episode 2 next week. And I hope you enjoy this new endeavor that I'm on. And I'm just so excited to share my knowledge, my wealth, and my experience with all of you. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for being here. As always, take what you need, leave what you don't, and share what resonates. And remember, small shifts create big change. Until next time.